But let's get it started. I want to start with the big three. Okay, this is I put it out as the big three that could have some major implications in remake. We're talking
Vincent,
Omega
if possible,
and Chaos Weapon
to
and the Proto Materia.
That
These are
we just saw
three
troubles me.
major
I've repaired the
elements
Shadow
of
Fox,
Dirge of
I'll
Cerberus
need to return to
that
headquarters.
had like a
WRO
significant
squad has
impact
already
on
been
the
dispatched
the
to Edge.
entire lore of Final
Join
Fantasy
them
VII, and it was
and help liberate
introduced
the city.
right here in Dirge of Cerberus. So, I mean, I guess Chaos
no
was there,
choice.
but we didn't know that Chaos was a weapon created alongside Omega to send all life to the life stream, so Omega weapon can carry it to another planet and start life anew. What are your thoughts on Omega, Chaos, and Proto Materia, and what it could mean in remake? We'll start with BabySeal on that one.
Well, okay, so that is a big topic. And of course, you know, one of the things to note about or to remember about Dirge of Cerberus is it's has no Nojima in its design. Nojima is the scenario writer for all of Final Fantasy VII except for Dirge, and so it's strange how much tightly packed but hugely important lore is attached to this game that wasn't even written by the main author of Final Fantasy VII. That being said, now, since you know the team's back together again, we've got remake, you know, bridging into intermission, which has Dirge topics in it. We've got Ever Crisis coming out, which will presumably go over the entire story of Dirge. We now have a chance to kind of bring the overall story of Dirge into like a more cohesive, more cohesively attach itself to the canon of general Final Fantasy VII, and so I'm excited about that. And there is a possibility, if you watch Sleepy's videos in particular, you'll see that there is a chance that the concept of the Omega, particularly Omega as a vessel for live stream from one planet to another, is at play in remake already. Like it could be Sephiroth's endgame. You know, so there's a chance that these big concepts are are already kind of woven into the greater narrative, like the meta narrative of remake. So I'm excited for the possibility of that, barring that they don't go silly with it, which I don't think they will. I think I think it's in good hands right now. That's my take with it. The Proto Materia, of course, one of the things that when Integrated was first announced, everybody was wondering is what's this materia that Yuffie is after, because there's some materia that Yuffie is trying to get her hands on, specifically like an ultimate materia. If you catch enough, if you look at the particularly the Japanese press release, it does specify that is a Shinra manufactured materia. So that kind of rules out the Proto Materia. And if they are sticking with the canon, which I mean, it feels like they're trying, at least, the Proto Materia should currently be within Vincent during the time of remake, in the in a coffin, in his in his little sorrow coffin, in his little sadness cave in Nibelheim under the Mansion. So that's where the Proto Materia should be. And of course, when we're talking about chaos, chaos is the universal force and Vincent's final limit break, and it sort of elevates Vincent to ridiculous power levels and makes him temporarily at least the most powerful character in the Final Fantasy VII universe. Just because it sort of fits the narrative of this little game they're trying to play. So I'm curious how not that power levels have ever been like really a thing in Final Fantasy VII. It's not like super critical to the way the story is told. I wonder if they're going to rein that in a little bit, and kind of change the mechanism of what chaos is. So
I mean, chaos is. What's up? I'm getting jumped. Chaos's whole purpose is to literally like exterminate all life, like to kind of go in there and just send it to the life stream. Is putting it nicely.
Right.
It's just just go in there and kill everything. Which is so crazy, as you said, to give that to like Vincent is chaos, which is he's a weapon.
Yeah.
Whoa, or at least the weapon resides in him right now. But that's pretty insane. But what you said about Proto Materia, one thing I kind of wanted to chime in on. I actually thought the Proto Materia was what the set like in the Setron flashback, like they were like holding it up. Is that kind of far off? Would that be far off?
Nothing's far off at this point. I mean, we don't know what they're holding up. I mean, it kind of makes
Right.
sense. It's sort of like proto materia literally means first materia. Like
Yeah, it seemed like that
the,
was like she's like this is the first Materia, like holding it up
yeah.
from the fountain or the waterfall or whatever it was. In that
And
flashback.
materia is like actually not well. It's a we know what materia means. We know what it is like, but we don't. Like the concept has never been fully fleshed out. Like there were elements of materia that seemed like potentially very critical to the story, cut from the original game and the cut content of Final Fantasy VII. Sephiroth explains that like the summon materia are in fact like the spirits of these soldiers that have been encapsulated into materia, and that was cut from the game, and then now we're looking at remake and has these descriptions of Shiva and Ifrit as these these warriors of old, and so it's almost like they're they're leaning into that description a little bit, but maybe giving us more explanation. Like we really don't know what holy is, or like what the purpose of the black materia is, because it seems like the black materia would do the same thing as chaos. I mean, essentially. So is it redundant? What is it? Like why? And so
Go. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You can keep going. I'm sorry. I was just going to chime in with something.
Oh well, I mean, chime in.
Oh, okay.
I'm here for it.
But yeah, so like for the Nibelheim incident actually is something. I think we just lost BabySeal. I'm not sure, but for the Nibelheim. Okay. Vinny, on your Discord, it's looking a little weird. For the Nibelheim incident, or the flashback that happens in Calm, explaining that, I'm actually making a video right now as a follow-up to the Calm video.
Cool.
It's pretty sweet. I think I'm hoping I'm going in really in depth with it again. There is that moment where Sephiroth, they approach that well or that spring or whatever it is, and Tifa and Cloud and Sephiroth circle it, and they just sit there and have a conversation about what materia is. This would be just a fantastic opportunity to really kind of go into it a little bit deeper, like you said. It's not really that well explained.
Vincent Valentine.
And now they could really explain it very well in the Calm flashback, just right off the bat. Kind of, here's what materia is, and then also in that flashback, and I won't go into it too much because I want people to watch my video. But yeah, that is a pure materia. That's pure. Like it's not engineered or anything like that. That was the planet produced this materia. And I wonder if they'll kind of go into that a little bit where they didn't do that in the original. Whereas it's like, does pure materia have more potency? Does it have more whatever? Like but anyways, I digress a little bit on that one because we're gonna circle back to Ferren. You still there? You still there, Ferren?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, cool, man. What are your thoughts on the weapons Omega, Chaos, and then the Proto Materia?
Well, intriguing enough, I enjoyed BabySeal's explanation, and with my own thoughts about where the remake is at right now, I personally am interested in seeing exactly how the weapons are introduced, and what the progression of the story is going to be, because I know some people kind of got upset, and spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't played Remake, you know, respectfully, but I know there was some people that got upset with the fight towards the end of the Remake where you fight Sephiroth, for instance. But
Vinny, can you turn up Ferren? I'm sorry, Ferren, you're coming in pretty low.
Ferren is actually all the way up. I put him on 200%.
Okay, how's that then? Is
yeah,
that better?
You just have a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Sorry, I turned my gain down a little bit while you guys were talking there, because I noticed it was like picking up some static noise, so that's probably what it was. But
Okay, cool. Much better.
but I'm starting to think that in the grander scheme, if they're introducing Vice and then we're possibly looking at having more characters come into the picture over time, I feel like eventually we're going to see more of a big picture where these weapons alongside these villains, maybe they might team up, and who knows, maybe they might end up becoming a force even stronger than Sephiroth originally was. So I'm not necessarily sure what the remake's going to do or how they're going to introduce it, but I do heavily agree that there are some definite lore things from Dirge of Cerberus that they want evidently known in this upcoming content. So I'm interested to see where it goes, but I think BabySeal kind of hit a lot of things on the head with what could be possible. So I kind of concur with what he's saying.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Now we go on to characters missing that have not been announced for Remake. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of like name some off, tell you what they're about, which I probably don't have to tell you guys, but I'll just, for the sake of it, I'll say what these characters are, and then give me a probability of what you think. Will we see them in intermission? Will we see them a little bit later on? At this point, it feels like anything Deep Ground related, it feels like we're going to see it. Like, and that includes Genesis, which is coming up. But the restrictors is an interesting one, because the restrictors were a prominent thing in the multiplayer mode, if I remember correctly, of Dirge of Cerberus, where you're a candidate and you know, like, just these restrictors have implanted chips into the brainstem brainstems of all these recruits. Basically, that's what they do. They basically say don't do that if they're going to step out of line, and they can control any of the Sviets and anybody in Deep Ground. Restrictors are basically the governors of Deep Ground. The only restrictor that was ever seen is just one. And that was in the multiplayer mode, I think. I don't know if it made an appearance in Dirge Cerberus, but yeah, you only see one. But if we're going back to intermission, is this during the time period of restrictors? Is this does that line up well? Like, does intermission have restrictors in there? Would Yuffie run into one? Is basically what I'm saying.
You know, we actually don't for sure know. But it is absolutely possible. Like, part of the issue comes with the swords, because we know that you know, when the rebellions, like at the end of multiplayer, it's sort of an origin story for Vice's blades, and so he gets them at the end of that rebellion, and so at that point, like, the restrictor status is a little unclear. Also, like, we don't know if those are actually his swords, or if that's just like some VR nonsense, or if even like, I mean, like, we don't know if it can actually really be used as a way to establish the timeline of anything, because now we know, thanks to the first soldier presentation, that out of the words of Nomura's mouth, the VR simulator can somehow like predict and simulate the future.
Right.
So I don't know, you know, like what that means, but I would love to see the restrictors. I think that on a list of likelihood, I think we'd more likely to see some hint of the restrictors in the first soldier, if I'm being totally honest, than we would in intermission. I think that the online only characters are going to be at the very lowest list of probability.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's good answer, thank you. And then we'll go on to we're gonna talk about some of the Sviets.
Yeet.
Yeah, so yeet. Rosso the Crimson, which we saw a little earlier in the gameplay of Dirge of Cerberus, definitely a big appearance here. She's violent and sadistic. She's got bloodlust. She's actually the first successful deep ground experiment. And we know that she is in deep ground during this time because she was never able to get to see the light of day. That was kind of her thing. She could never see the light of day. She wanted to escape deep ground. So she's down there, right? When Yuffie's down there. At what point during intermission, you know what I mean? do we see Rosso, or are we gonna wait till a little bit later? We do know that she also kind of staged this. I don't know what you want to call it, but she murdered a bunch of deep ground soldiers to kind of get the attention of a restrictor. That did not work out well for her. But yeah, so does that align with where we would be at during that time of intermission? This could be a chance to to recap that story, to see a little bit of Rosso in there. What do you think, Ferren? Do you think we'll see some Rosso?
Personally, I would imagine we'll see Azul the Cerulean first. I feel like he's much more of a foreboding character. I feel like she'd come in more secondary than he would. And I'm not necessarily sure if we'll see much content on them yet, as it would be more so supporting content, like maybe we hear about them in cutscenes or read about them in certain logs. But I'm not necessarily sure. But when you bring it up, I am curious, because it would be really cool if the remake universe started tying in some of these more supporting characters into more major roles with the party, just so we could kind of expand the universe with the possibilities of characters meeting under different circumstances and new lore being created from it. So I don't really know how they'd be introduced, but I would really love to see at least Azul the Cerulean. But as for Rosso the Crimson, it'd be interesting to see like a backstory for her. Maybe before she's Rosso the Crimson, or some kind of origin story. But I'm not really sure. But that would definitely be intriguing.
Okay, yeah, it's so like when I was writing out this document, I was kind of thinking in the mindset of like, okay, if Remake is going to try and wrap up all of these story threads that have been created through the compilation, but with it ending where the original would end, you know, like have a definitive ending. So basically, Advent Children doesn't need to happen, and Dirge of Cerberus doesn't need to happen. There's a definitive ending, but we're going to take all of these story threads that have been introduced and kind of wrap them up, is kind of in my mindset of what Remake is trying to set out to do. Like, I don't think Remake's going to end with like, oh yeah, now watch Advent Children, because I don't think that's what they're trying to do. I think Remake is going to have a definitive ending, no need for sequels. So with that said, we've already know that Deep Ground is here. We know that, I mean, we've seen Deep Ground soldiers, we've seen Vice, we've seen Nero now. So these characters are all, they have to be there. It just seems like that's the direction they're going. So yeah, with that being said, I also feel like it would be kind of a good way to do it during these, like, he's got the Yuffie intermission DLC, and then part 2 comes out, and then maybe part 3, or before part 3, maybe we get another DLC with I said this on our Tifa the Monk podcast, but I was like, maybe we get a Vincent DLC, and then the DLC kind of wraps up some of the Dirge of Cerberus story threads, because if we're going to keep Deep Ground and all Dirge of Cerberus kind of lore in these DLC, that doesn't affect the main game that much. Although I guess Vice is kind of technically part of the main game, because you fight him with Cloud and company. But yeah, so that's kind of my mindset right now, and where I'm like, okay, let's tie up some loose ends here with Dirge of Cerberus and do it in a separate way. Like we'll keep it clean for you for Remake, and make sure everything's kind of staying on track without going too wild, but we'll do some intermissions. What do you think?
The warehouse.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, BabySeal, you know, Ferren brought up Azul the Cerulean. What do you think the odds are of Azul being there, who willingly joined Deep Ground after being captured, and then was like, oh yeah, this is where I want to be.
Well, he kind of already was in there.
Follow me.
In remake.
In remake.
How so?
So type. So this is a little bit of a stretch, but type 0 behemoth, which you fight in Deep Ground.
Yes, I
that
love this
behemoth has, and you know, Sleep Easy and I have scoured this detail. But we went through every single behemoth model in all of Final Fantasydom, and that's actually pretty impressive. Final Fantasy has just a metric ton of behemoths, you know, throughout the years, and they designed the horn of the Type 0 behemoth to be identical to the horn of the behemoth form of Azul. Like, it is an absolute intentional design. So there's already this nod to Azul there. So I'm not. I don't know if we'll see Azul. I think he's kind of low on lower on the totem pole. I mean, I would love though for, you know, to see them like maybe in VR. I would love to see all the Sphiats in VR, but I do think we will see other Sphiats in the story of Intermission though, and we can get to that when you get to them.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. I love that detail about the behemoth, Type 0. So maybe we had already fought, or is this the behemoth that they're going to try and fuse with him, like in that experiment?
Yeah, you know, or something just kind of referential. It's just like I guess what I'm saying is there's a chance that since that reference has already kind of been explored, that what we're going to see is something different.
Okay.
But I mean, shoot, you know, it could just be like, oh, well, that was a reference because we are going to include it. You know, they could say whatever they want. But.
Yeah, it's true. Real quick, Phantom Valentine says, "What's with this boy's necklace? Have we?"
I was gonna comment on this kid, how like this kid has the craziest swag in this entire game. I think that's a key. I think that's the key that he's using to unlock the doors. But yeah, this kid has Flava Flav vibes, if you ask me.
The key master, man. He's
It's the teeth of his enemies.
This little boy, man. He could actually give you a slight jog if you know what I mean. Like, he can give a little slight jog, but he's just doing this swagger walk.
Well,
you know, not even.
It kind of looks like I'm holding this kid
Oh,
up.
there we go.
Oh,
there he goes. He's booking it now. You aim your gun at him, he books it, man. He's like, I'm out. So we go over to Shelk the Transparent. This is where it gets weird, guys. This is where it gets even just ridiculous. Shelk is arguably the most important, one of the most important characters in Dirge of Cerberus, as she is able to use this unique ability called SND, a Synaptic Net Drive ability. It's like the internet for the mind, basically. So Vice can also use this ability. Keep that in mind. It's basically where you can connect to other people's consciousness, and she even does this with Lucretia, and kind of syncs up with their mental wavelength, just like me and Vinny do a lot, right, Vinny?
Yeah, exactly.
so yeah, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. It's the internet for the mind. Vice can also use it. Most likely Chadley is a product of this.
Look, we have a silhouette of Cloud up there. I don't know if you saw that on the flag.
I did not. No, I didn't. A little reference to silhouette of Cloud, or was it actually Cloud up there?
I don't know if it was Cloud or Zach, because they have the very similar character model.
Oh, it's just kind of like a nod.
Thanks, kid.
It's a silhouette of somebody holding the Buster Sword, and it looks like Cloud.
Avenge.
Interesting. Maybe they put up little murals. I mean, come on, the dude did save the world.
That's true.
They could have a
It's
little
the Strife delivery service.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, let's do some advertisements, man. The man saved your life.
But I.
No, I'm serious. That's what it is.
Is it the Strife? Was it actually? I didn't actually see it. So if that's what it is. Sweet. So yeah, so it looks like Chadley could be a product of the SND. We don't know who's most likely Vice, most likely Vice. But this seems possible considering Chadley. So now that this is a possibility, if it seeps into remake, we gotta figure out what's going, what that could do with remake. Also, one of my most disliked things about that were introduced in Dirge of Cerberus, I really, really do not like this concept. I don't like the idea that Hojo was able to kind of transfer his consciousness into Vice. None of that clicked with me very well. So
oh yeah, it was a convoluted nightmare. Yeah, it was like what?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Very well by anyone.
Here, look. There's the. There's
so
the
do we
silhouette.
retcon this all together? There it is. Nice. Awesome. Good eye.
It looks like
Good
it says weapon.
That's cool. I never noticed that before. Seriously, good find.
It looks like it says weapon right there. And then, I don't know, maybe that's item?
Hey, you should screenshot that and put that on Twitter or something, People might be like, oh.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, and then maybe I can zoom in and find out what it says.
Yeah.
If only we knew somebody at a that made like rad mods that could pull those assets. Right.
Yeah, pull those assets for you. Suna mods.
How do I screenshot on
actually.
Windows 10 again? It's like.
Oh, I have no idea, man. I don't know how to take a screenshot on the on that. You can do it through.
You can hit the print screen button and it'll take the entirety of all of your desktops, and then you can just paste it into Paint and then cut it, or you can use the snipping tool or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So do we think?
You know what? I'll do it. I'll do it right now. I got you, my bro. Okay. Green.
Do we think that
screenshotted? Done. And then I'll save it. I'll put it in
on a Mac, so that would be Command Shift 4. So. Yeah. So do we think this is going to get completely retconned, or do we think this is actually a very real thing that exists within remake, the SND and all that other stuff? Especially.
I think SND is getting a huge upgrade. I think it's going to be
5G.
It's going to be. Yeah, it's basically 5G now. That's what it is. Is like, and it travels through time because it uses Materia in the live stream, and it's got adaptive AI machine learning that will predict the future.
This is what Aerith and Sephiroth are really using. They're using the SND. So,
we're joking, but I mean it's possible.
It's within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, and I mean it.
Phantom says, I see a Red 13 poster in the tunnel.
In the tunnel?
Ooh, nice.
God, man, you guys are awesome spotting these things. But yeah, go ahead, BabySeal. Sorry.
Oh no, I was like, I'm enjoying this. As far as Shelk goes, I think S&D for one is definitely going to get, some kind of. I mean, I think S&D is how we're fighting Vice, right? Oh, pet shop. That's rude. That's rude. Unless he actually started a pet shop.
Yeah, apparently Cloud started a weapon shop. Red started a pet shop.
And then, so I mean, Shelk, the transparent, I think has a very, very high likelihood of appearing in intermission, more than any of the other Spiets. I think
intermission.
I agree.
Yeah.
I actually 100% support that.
She's a good foil for Yuffie as is, but also I think she fits. There's possible family stuff with Shalua, and I think there's a lot of room for her there. She's also like she's Chiba's I think favorite character that was made in. Yeah, there's that Aerith poster right there.
That's an Aerith
poster. Does that say joy, joy, joy?
Yeah, you got it.
She's whose favorite character?
She's Chiba, who was the director of the creative director behind and scenario director for Dirge of Cerberus. and he's also he did World of Final Fantasy and Type 0.
Yeah, and Shelk has shown up in so many of them, like the City Opera Omnia. She's there. She's in the Record Keeper. She's in the.
She's in World of Final Fantasy too.
World of Final Fantasy, trading card game. She's popping up a lot. So
yeah, so it just makes sense that they're introducing her for like that kind of reason. Like, hey, remember this character? Like, don't forget this character exists, because that way it's not a system shock when it shows up in Dirge Cerberus or something.
Yep.
Or in intermission. So yeah. SND though, Vice has and Chadley have like a lot of similar, like there's a visual motif thing. Chadley's just this weird little creature as it is. Like Chadley is, there's a lot I could say about Chadley. I could do a Chadley podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure he could.
Because there's so much weird stuff about him. And Chadley even has like the same sort of color scheming as Kate Sith. Like specifically the Moogle doll of Kate Sith uses the same color values as Chadley's top. And given like that it's possibly something manufactured by Shinra, that could mean that like, Chadley was manufactured either, by the same person or in the same way, or is like an upgraded model of the Moogle doll, There's all sorts of weird stuff that could happen with that. And then that could factor into Vice somehow,
Yeah. Yeah, and let's go to Genesis now. Let's do it. Let's go to Genesis. Now, Genesis is another character that wasn't super prominent in in Dirge of Cerberus, so we don't need to go like super in depth down a rabbit hole with Genesis, but more like, hey, at the end of this game, we all know it, we've all seen it, the secret ending of Genesis, lifting up Vice and then flying off, saying that, basically quoting another Loveless thing, nothing shall forestall my return. So it just really seems like, hey, I think he's going to return. So we get to Genesis. I feel like this is a conversation in itself. Could be like a 3-hour video, right? It could be like a Sleep Easy type essay, video essay.
Yeah. I feel like there's a video recently. I think it's his most watched videos. Is Genesis explained or something.
Yeah, definitely check out Sleep Easy's video there. But yeah, how about, I personally feel like we'll see Genesis in intermission, or as we were talking about a little bit earlier, where it could be like an end of cutscene of Intergrade. I don't think it's going to go into that. Maybe it depends on how important it is, really. But yeah, I think at the end of intermission, I feel like that's going to be the real thing. I mean, we gotta admit, we've seen Nero, we've seen Vice. Do you think Square Enix really just revealed the last boss? Like, what I mean? Like here's Nero, this is going to be the final boss of Yuffie's DLC? Or do you think after you fight Nero, maybe you see Genesis, or maybe there's some kind of reference, whether it's his name is referenced, whether Nero like referenced his Genesis, or something Genesis related. I just don't feel like Nero is going to be the final boss. I just feel like there's going to be more to the intermission, depending on what they go with. Depending on if they go with, like, if this is a full-on Final Fantasy type thing where there's usually like 3 bosses before the end. Yeah. So what are you guys thinking about Genesis in intermission specifically? Because it's a given at this point that he will show up in Remake. What do you think, Ferren? Yeah, Ferren. Yeah.
Personally, I think there'll be a nod to him, but I don't know if there'll be a full-on. I think they're gonna save that for a main scenario, like part 2, part 3. But I feel like it'd be more in the intermission. I feel like he'll be hinted at, but I don't know if he'll make a direct appearance. And if they do, I hope it's something worthwhile. But I'm sure it'll be a fleeting cutscene. I don't think they'll go too deep into it here.
Okay, yeah, like a kind of just a reference or a mention, or
just to get people excited,
Yeah. Well, that's what they're going to do. So since the kind of the theories, you have what you have with remake. It's time to give a little bit more. So for these content creators out there, like us, that we can just dive into it and just keep talking about it for at least another year. And I think that's what Square Enix wants. I think they want us talking for another year, something fresh, something to keep people engaged while they work on part 2. So I think that's what Intermission's whole objective is, to give the content creators something to talk about. What do you think, BabySeal? You think we're gonna get something to keep us talking?
Oh yeah, and I think Genesis will definitely be involved. It'd be such a bizarre decision to introduce Deep Ground, call it Intermission. There's all sorts of references already to like G-type soldiers from Remake. Deep Ground, like, we're gonna be there. We're gonna be where Genesis's body is, and we know that G-type soldiers are a thing, and those are G cells, and so I mean it's there. Like the world preview book shows Genesis and NGL in it. Like there's a lot of context. Now, what does it mean for the overall narrative? Is it going to be introduced in a way that lets us know, hey, things are going to be really different and Genesis is involved? I don't think so. I think we're going to get something that says, hey, he's here, Genesis is here, and we'll get that before the end of the game. I think the end of the game, whatever the thing that bridges the two parts together, will be something different. I don't know what that is, but I think it might be something that gets us talking just as much as Genesis or more. Something new. I think that's the most likely thing, is we'll see something that we don't understand. At the end of Intergrade.
Just jumping in where calm and just setting it up is not enough to keep it talking. So I do like what you're saying there. That's it's got to be something new. I like that. Something that keeps people talking for at least another year. If I want to go over here and I don't know, I guess trigger Sleep Easy a little bit, maybe it will wake him up. Phantom Valentine says, I didn't notice that Vincent's attack aura is purple. So there's a color. I thought maybe I'd reference it for you.
I am getting it up.
Vincent is melees with a purple aura, and we all know Sleep Easy loves purple and yellow, and and then we go on and they're talking about how they just can't wait to see Vincent. Now, I mean, technically Vincent is, a character that hasn't been announced yet. So to wrap this all up, unless if you guys have characters that you want to talk about, to wrap it up, let's talk about Vincent.
I do have a character I want to talk about. Okay, and this has been coming up a lot, is Argento, which is in fact he is the only online character, that we don't know about, that I think might make an appearance in the greater lore, and the reason is because he makes weapons, and I think we might get some kind of maybe not in Remake, but in at least Ever Crisis. I think he will appear in the story that's going to happen in Ever Crisis that centers around Sephiroth's backstory, the first soldier portion. I think we might see Argento. That's a big wild swing. But I think that we might get context for the similarity between Vice's blades and the Masamune. Philip Hartshorn, who was on my best performing episode ever because his milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. He was talking about how strange it is that the Masamune is essentially the only Eastern style weapon we see in Shinra, and so he has this whole headcanon associated with it. In the original Final Fantasy, the only other one is Vice's. and I think that there might be some fun storytelling opportunity with Argento as a result. And it might be the one lost character we see, the character, online only character we see.
Yeah, okay. I like that. And then also, I mean, if we do see a restrictor or whatever, but that could, fall
That'd
in
be
there
sweet.
too.
I love the restrictors design. For
Me
anybody
too.
that doesn't know what they look like, they look similar to the judges in Final Fantasy 12. Which were probably the highlight of Final Fantasy 12 for me. So.
If Batman was a judge in Final Fantasy 12, basically.
Yeah, like a dark, super dark. Yeah. That's exactly. That's perfect. Yeah. I'm not using that. I'm going to say, or as Final Fan TV says, if Bruce Wayne were a judge from Final Fantasy 12.
Yeah. There's Rosso right there on screen. She just yeah. I mean, she's ridiculously powerful. I think this fight ends with yeah. Here he goes. Vincent's going to go chaos, right? Yeah. Yep. Vincent goes chaos, and that's Rosso says no, thank you. Look at that, dude. Chaos. What do you think of chaos? Like the design of this right here in Dirge of Cerberus.
Personally, I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's cool.
Lots of purple again.
When you look at his original design in the OG vanilla Final Fantasy VII, though, it's kind of intriguing because the original design, they actually made him look more like a literal demon than more Vincent-esque. So I enjoy for Dirge of Cerberus that they kind of made him maintain, part of what he actually looks like than just going into like a full demon kind of persona. So, but visually speaking, yeah, I really like it.
I've heard it described as like Lucifer, like Satan, like he had like a Satan-esque but like a Satan-esque character model in Final Fantasy original. And that's what I thought too. Like when I first used Chaos
Grim
for
Reaper.
the first time, I was like that's like super like devil. So I thought that's what I thought he turned into the devil. And but after playing Dirge of Cerberus, I was like, oh, he's just like Vincent 2.0.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the characterization evolved because we know that it was originally just meant to be Halloween characters. Like Vincent is named after Vincent Price. It's just he's sort of a like a caricature of Western horror film. So yeah, so the evolution of chaos as a concept from just being like a night creature to this crazy cool thing, Vincent 2.0, is actually something that I do want to see moving forward with remake.
Yeah.
Although like it will be weird seeing like Hellmasker in remake. Like how are they going to do that?
I
Like,
really
he does his
hope.
transformations. Yeah.
Yeah, I really hope they kind of give the Hellmasker the Madman vibe, like with like the hysterical Joker laugh and everything. Just make it really creepy.
Yeah, that would be cool. I would love to see some horror elements in Vincent's kind of whatever they do for Vincent. I'd love to see like some horror elements introduced. It's kind of a little bit let down by the Genova thing because that was supposed to be kind of the horror element with the blood trails and stuff. But that would be cool. That would be really cool to see. And I said this at one point. I think I said it earlier in this podcast. But like, if Vincent gets his own DLC, because if you think about it, Yuffie's a alternate character, or not an alternate, an optional character, and Vincent is an optional character. So if they kind of follow that, and then they keep the like I was saying earlier, keeping the Dirge of Cerberus storyline with them, that actually kind of makes a whole lot of sense. Whereas you get Vincent and Yuffie's DLCs, and then like you can really dive into, as I see in chat, kind of going back to Vincent's Turk days. You can kind of give him like his own DLC to wrap up Dirge of Cerberus and also his backstory, I guess. That would be kind of cool in my opinion. I'm good with that. Like, and that way you don't keep remake and its story going all which every which way. It's focused, and then the DLC is going to wrap up those story threads of Dirge Cerberus. Maybe that's what I would like to see. What do you think the chances are? And I'm seeing it in chat, and I'm 100% saying that Vincent will not be in there. Like, I don't think so. It was a big thing where Yuffie could have been a reflection of her eye. It could have been Vincent. I don't think so. But do you think that what are the potential of Vincent being in this intermission? And then we'll wrap up the podcast. Ferren, sorry.
For me, personally, if I'm trying to think of the original lore, because if you look right here, this cutscene's very indicative of what happens to Vincent at this point. He gets shot, and this is the moment when he starts getting experimented on. This is actually in the OG vanilla game. Like, you see this cutscene, it's kind of gleamed over in about a 30-second period. There's not a lot of dialogue, and it wasn't meant to have dialogue. But at this point, he gets experimented on, and he just stays in the Shinra basement. I'm pretty sure they just put him in a coffin and lock him away into the... Well, actually, I take that back. I think he becomes self-aware of what he has going on, and as his punishment, he locks himself away in a coffin. Mm-hmm. So I don't think he'll be in intermission, because I think he's kind of going through his own self-depredation in the mansion at the moment.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Sure.
I agree. BabySeal, what are your thoughts on that before we close it out?
Well, I mean, look. We all look at, Toast and see the burn marks and see different things, okay? All right? So, like, we don't all have to jump on a bandwagon if, like, I just happen to see the reflection of Vincent Valentine in the eye of Yuffie during the Intergrade trailer, and it looked like Vincent Valentine in the burning wreckage. Like, I saw that image so clearly, and I thought it was crazy, and then the internet came together all at once to gaslight me into thinking that I was a bad person for thinking that. But the truth is I don't think that's actually what I saw. I just saw that pattern. The odds seem so low to me that that's what they do. And
yeah,
if they do that, like, here's why I don't think they would do that. They are still holding the possibility of an extremely divergent story hostage over us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to deliver the truth as to whether this story diverges tremendously is going to be the next game. If they throw that card out now, they are shooting themselves in the foot for the next game, because they think a lot of people will just depart from the process, depart from the project at that point.
At that point, you're just looking forward to Sid.
Yeah, and so I think really it is just from a canon perspective. It seems really obvious that they are, they made this choice to center around a character who's like one of the only characters we absolutely had no idea what they were doing at this point in the story, right? So it made the most sense to follow this story, this character story. They're the only ones that could have been in Midgar without it affecting the overall canon of Final Fantasy VII. So I don't think they're going to, let us center around a character or even show us a character that so dramatically changes the events of the future of Final Fantasy until, if they do that, until we are already like halfway into a game we've already spent money on, and then we're kind of pot committed to finish the game and then decide if we like where it's going. Like, I don't see them blowing the future of part 2 with a reveal that big.
Have you recovered
personally
already?
Yeah, absolutely. Smart in both storytelling and in a sense of marketing and stuff. So yeah, I agree with you on that one. It was catchy, by the way, in Yuffie's eye, and nobody can tell me differently.
Yeah, I mean, it makes the most sense lore-wise. Like, I will definitely grant that I don't see that when I line up like images, but like,
yeah,
you know, it's a burning wreck outside of, you know, Platefall. Like,
yeah, it's probably
it's the story of Dirge of Cerberus, and Kate Sith was in that. Like, we don't know how they get out. Maybe Kate Sith showed up. Like, it is way more likely Kate Sith than like any of the other. Yeah, other than Rebel. Rebel's really high up there on the list. But,
yeah.
but no, I think Kate Sith was such a good idea. I love that image that you guys made has circulated all around the internet. I love seeing anything that you guys do getting like circulated widely. I'm like, hey, I know that guy. So.
We say the same about you.
Yeah,
we know that guy.
Shared sentiment. Yeah, that was kind of cool, and it just sucked because I didn't focus a lot of time on it. I was like, Vinny, I think that looks like Hitchy. I think that's him. And then I just kind of like was like, wait, they just go on about something else. And I was like, I should have really did some deep dive into that right there. But it was just kind of a reaction video, and I was like, dude, what if that's him? Because in that cutscene they show just this random cat banging on a platform, and I'm like. And they could provide some context there, you know what I mean? And you do bring up a really good point. I say catchy. I'm trying to adapt, guys. I'm trying to adapt. And then I hear BabySeal. He's saying Kate Sith, and I'm like, that's what I like to call him. And you know,
I only call him Kate Sith because the only you know true Irish man I know, MJ Gallagher, refuses to call it differently, and so like
I'll take that, dude. That's
why I do it for right now. And then if it changes and then I have to adapt, I'll just be mad at him passive aggressively for the rest of our life.
Yeah, so Kate Sith has a major role in Dirge of Cerberus. There's Reeve right there actually on screen. So yeah, that could be the thing, man. Intermission is coming up in only like what, less than 2 weeks, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Very exciting times for not only just, you know, for Final Fantasy VII Remake, but also E3 is coming up, Summer Game Fest. It's going to be just a really fantastic month ahead of us. We have for Final Fan TV, we actually have some pretty big things coming up. I've already announced the intergrade interview with cast members such as Vice, which is, you know, Damon, and we have Polk, and we have oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. So we have Vice, Polk, and the Billy Bob character, which is David Goldstein, Daniel Ammerman, and Damon Mills. A lot of D's there. I actually kind of messed up
triple D.
I've messed up my emails. Like, I actually sent one to David when I met Damon. I'm like, I'm so sorry. There's so many. I just messing up.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so yeah, we got a pretty sweet lineup there, and I can make an official announcement right now.
Ooh,
right here. Here it is. Exclusive world premiere. There we go. We're starting that early before June. We will have also Sean Chiplock, voice of Nero.
Ooh,
yeah. Super excited about this.
Nero's a sable.
That's right. It's gonna be a blast. I will also announce that we are postponing it to June 19th. So that gives you guys a whole week to play it if you have a PS5. I'm sorry, a sensitive subject for some. But it is a whole week, and then we will have the cast interview. I'm really looking forward to that, and then after that, another very big. June is just so freaking hype, man.
Yeah, we got Intergrade, we got E3.
Yes, man. I always go nuts when E3 is my favorite time of the year. So I'm so happy that it's coming back. I'm happy that it's back in some way. I'm really excited to see how they do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my biggest concern is that the press conferences are back. They haven't announced any official dates except for Ubisoft, which is going to be on June 12th. That's why I had to reschedule, by the way. I was like, guys, I don't know how I overlooked this, but my favorite time of the year is coming up, E3. And there's going to be a lot of traffic, and it probably won't be on us. So let's reschedule. So man, E3 is so exciting. I'm really excited for that stuff. So, and plus, we also have a new Final Fantasy that's being rumored, like you mentioned earlier, BabySeal. That's going to be exciting too. I think Final Fantasy 16 will get some updates. So really cool.
So the NAVTRA, specifically that leak says that we are getting remake news, 16 news, 14 news, Forspoken news, and a new Final Fantasy in a new genre. Something between a mainline title and World of Final Fantasy in terms of scale, according to NAVTRA.
So that's the
official. Yeah, the official rumor says it's something akin to, and this is the weirdest comparison, akin to Monster Hunter / a Souls-like game.
Oh my God, Vinny! Just look at Vinny's face.
Yeah.
Vinny just peeked his. Yeah, wait, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
What have I been saying? I've been saying Final Fantasy would benefit so greatly from like a Soul style.
Oh my God!
Gameplay.
What an insane concept that would be. Yeah. So there's a lot of speculation we can go off on, and we will do so on June 5th. We're going to be doing our E3, just going nuts. Given E3 predictions, and we will even, I know this is a Final Fantasy channel, but we're going to do a dedicated Final Fantasy E3 predictions, and then from there on we'll probably just go ahead and have a marathon stream of just predictions and stuff covering each developer. So
exciting.
That's gonna be, it's gonna be really exciting. You're more than welcome to join, guys, both of you guys, if you want. But that is going to wrap up the final podcast. Thank you so much for staying tuned here during the subathon, and play will continue because we've already hit, like when the thing first started, we hit 2 goals.